The March Sky High Orion, also known as Orion's March, composed by local man, down in Selsey, Sir Patrick Moore. Orion, of course, is very prominent this time of year, visible in the zenith area of the sky, and then, of course, now setting towards the west. Music about astronomy-related topics was obviously going to come across Patrick's repertoire in his compositions. Astronomy and broadcasting the sky at night were his main forte, but his music was his other great passion, his other great hobby in life. And he composed a lot of music. And I met Patrick through science, as did many others, but then discovered his music quite by accident through a very unique story, and then, to keep it as brief as possible, became friends with him through music, and then later on, after he passed away, became inheritor of his music archives. Now, Patrick was fascinated by the rhythm of the waltz. He wrote many, many waltzes in his time, starting at the age of 11 and carrying on writing music until he could no longer hold a pen. We're going to do just the first part of one of his waltzes, which he tried to tribute to the great Viennese composers of the Strauss family and so on, which is called Vienna Doro. And now Patrick is going to take you to a world that never existed as they thought it did, but they were once sure that it actually did so. If you look in the sky, if it's clear of course, just after sunset, or just before sunrise, and you see a very bright object in that sky, and it's not man-made or the moon, there's a good bet you're looking at the planet Venus, a world very similar in size to the Earth and closer to the sun than we are. A world with swamps, lakes and woodlands. But of course we now know that Venus is anything but. We now send spacecraft to Venus into orbit around the planet to map it with radar and into the surface through the atmosphere. We now know that the atmospheric pressure on Venus is 90 times that of the Earth. The atmosphere is chiefly made up of carbon dioxide, and the clouds you see in the telescope are made up purely of sulfuric acid. So if you went to Venus for the weekend, once you went out of your spacecraft, you would immediately be fried, poisoned, squashed, corroded, crushed. In the 70s, he was putting music together for a concert series he did, and so he put 5 pieces that he'd written throughout his time to form this suite. And we're going to play for you live what has survived. The first movement is Dragonflies, which he survived intact. He wrote that when he was 13. The second movement is Dance of the Hedgehogs. This is an interesting one. Only the first part, when he was 12 or 13, he thinks he was 12, has survived. There is another part which has survived on recording, which he wrote when he was 72. Can you tell the difference, he used to say? I can't.
Yes, you know, I never thought of it before, but perhaps it was my mother's sister, Auntie Jo, who excited my enthusiasm for the piano most of all. Even at the age of 80 plus, you could present her with a fearsome piece of music she'd never seen before, and she'd put on her spectacles, glare at it for a bit, and then play it off, absolutely note perfect. Yet take away the written music, and she couldn't play so much as God Save the Queen, which is very odd, the complete opposite of me, in fact. I always knew I wanted to be as good a pianist as she was. With apologies to any pianist who may be listening, the closing bars of it went